What if I told you that the next giant leap for mankind wasn't coming from NASA, but from Japan? That's right, the same country known for anime, sushi, and cutting-edge technology has now rewritten the meaning of moon exploration altogether. But what did Japan do on the moon, and why does everybody talk about it? Earlier this year, Japan made history, but not for the reason you think. Yes, it landed a spacecraft on the moon for the first time, joining the ranks of the USA, Russia, India, and China that came before them. But JAXA's mission was much more than that. They achieved such an accurate landing on the moon. This would be the equivalent of successfully shooting a skin cell from London to Cairo and having it land on a specific grain of rice. The pre-launch hype was over this insane ambition of precision engineering. As soon as JAXA touched down, headlines back on Earth shifted. Nicknamed Moon Sniper for stealthy precision, its whole mission was intended to demonstrate just how precise a landing we can now pull off. As such, the tiny spacecraft was not designed to survive the extreme conditions of a lunar night. And yet, it somehow has survived 3. Baffling scientists, and this tenacious craft continued to wake up and send data and images back from the lunar surface. Oh, and upside down. I'm Alex McColgan, and you're watching Astrum. Join me today on this topsy-turvy ride, as we dive into the details of JAXA's first moon landing, what has kept Moon Sniper functional through 3 lunar nights, and how these precise landings will change the future of lunar exploration. The Smart Lander for Investigating Moon, also known as SLIM or Moon Sniper, is a compact, light spacecraft about the size of a passenger vehicle. Its mission is to analyze the composition of olivine rocks near the Scioli crater, some 200 miles south of the Sea of Tranquility, where Neil Armstrong made his famous small step. This landing site is situated on a layer of debris that has been thrown out from the nearby crater and provides researchers with a unique opportunity to investigate deep lunar rock without having to drill into it. By investigating the boulders, JAXA wants to understand not only the origin of the moon but also its interior and its development. SLIM also carried 2 small lunar excursion vehicles, LEV-1 and LEV-2. They were designed to deploy from SLIM and gather some of their own data and photos. Beyond its scientific objectives, SLIM is also a showcase of the latest in engineering and mission operations. It aimed to demonstrate how a small explorer could get to the moon on short notice and operate relatively inexpensively, could execute precise lunar landing procedures. That would speed up the moon and planet study through the use of lighter, more delicate probing system capable of landing in treacherous, rocky places impossible for a bigger-sized crafts. To appreciate why this is such a big deal, it's helpful to consider a little history. First of all, you must know that only about 43% of lunar landings are successful. Past lunar missions have faced huge limitations in landing accuracy, mainly constrained by technology and the lunar environment. It can be shown, such as the case where it took a dozen attempts by the Soviet Union before they finally landed Luna 9 on the moon. For example, it took NASA's Ranger Series 6 tries to get it right. Because the moon has no atmosphere, landers rely directly on engine thrust for descent, thus making precise trajectory adjustments in order to land a very complex task. The craft has to land at almost 0 speed lest any of the instruments on board be broken by the impact. Every one of the Apollo missions landed precariously close to rocks, craters, or slopes that could have caused serious damage, with very limited ability to make adjustments in real time. The Apollo missions also all landed on the near side of the moon, close to the equator, and in almost perfect lighting conditions to make the touchdown as safe as possible. The drawback of this, though, was that NASA was just sending its spacecraft to essentially the same patch of moon, meaning actual surface exploration would be confined to this very landing site. If we could get a spaceship that could land in an ultra-precise zone of landing, we could send it to explore whatever and wherever we like. Scientists would be able to carry out targeted studies of different rock and soil types without relying on rovers to travel long distances. This reduces mission complexity and cost, while opening avenues to explore new lunar regions. Moon Sniper's mission cost $120 million. For comparison, accounting for inflation, the development of 4 lunar rovers for the missions of Apollo 15, 16, and 17 cost $38 million back in 1972. which is approximately $286 million today. More recently developed rovers such as Chandrayaan-2 and Chang'e-4 cost roughly $141 million and $180 million, respectively. And this is precisely what researchers are working on with very good progress. A landing footprint, also known as the landing ellipse, the surface mapped out on an astronomical body representing the possible uncertainty area in which a spacecraft will actually land. In 1969, the target landing ellipse for Apollo 11 was 18.5 kilometers by 4.5 kilometers. In 2013, China's Chang'e-3 had improved to a landing ellipse of 6 kilometers by 6 kilometers when it launched. In January 2024, a JAXA lander made Japan the fifth country to land on the moon, hitting just 55 meters from the center of its 100 meters by 100 meters target ellipse, a target 8,325 times smaller than Apollo 11's. Let's take a closer look at the technology that made this possible. It is because of the Smart Eyes, the vision-based navigation system from JAXA, that Moon Sniper landed as precisely as it did. As the spacecraft goes down, it continuously captures images of the Moon's surface that put it in real time on orbital maps made by data from other lunar rovers, including NASA's LRO, India's Chandrayaan-2, and Japan's Selene. These positions were then correlated with a broad map encompassing its location to pinpoint exactly where it would land. Through real-time processing of the images, Moon Sniper is able to make trajectory changes quite literally on the fly to enable it to hit its target with great precision. Weighing just 200 kilograms dry without propellant, a successful SLIM landing would demonstrate that small, lightweight spacecraft can accomplish complex lunar exploration missions. Except SLIM didn't exactly stick the landing. While JAXA managed to land the craft on target, it sort of toppled over at the last minute. But after such a precise approach, what caused this grave malfunction? On September 6, 2023, JAXA launched SLIM toward the Moon. It reached orbit on December 25, 2023, and eventually went in for landing on January 18, 2024. Gathered intently around screens throughout Japan to watch the live-streamed approach, a member of the mission team likened deceleration to landing as expected to be a breathless, numbing 20 minutes of terror. As it made its final descent to the lunar surface, one of SLIM's two main engine nozzles mysteriously detached 50 meters above the Moon's surface. This off-center thrust caused it to gain lateral motion, which it tried to stabilize, unsuccessfully, with its smaller thrusters. The amazing thing is that SLIM was able to identify the something wrong with its descent and a safe spot to touch down on so it wouldn't crash. Images from one of two autonomous probes released by SLIM before it touched down show the lander tipped over onto its nose. We can see the box-shaped main vehicle on the Moon's surface upside down. The solar panels were pointing away from the sun, instead of up towards it, as intended. Without sunlight, it was only a short period of time before the lander would exhaust its energy supply and cease to operate. Within hours of landing, SLIM returned a mosaic photo of its landing site using its limited battery power. Operating with just 12% power remaining, JAXA thus decided to shut the craft off in hope of a possible recovery when the sun's angle would change. Indeed, just 10 days later on January 29, that's just what happened. For 2 short days, SLIM was able to power up with energy from the sun, which by then had shifted its angle enough in the sky. The celebration in the JAXA team was short-lived, however, because it knew lunar night was setting in, likely to be the final nail in the coffin for our revolutionary small spacecraft. Lunar night is a real nemesis for any mission headed to the Moon. They are just brutal, really. The systems on the craft often never emerge on the other side. For example, the first U.S. craft to reach the Moon in 50 years, the U.S. lander Odysseus, failed to awaken following a lunar night. Much like SLIM, it malfunctioned on approach and landed on its nose in early 2024. Having gone into hibernation mode for 3 weeks, it never woke up again. Because the Moon doesn't have a real atmosphere, there's nothing to regularize its surface temperature. During the day of a lunar cycle when the Moon is essentially facing the Sun, temperatures can get as high as 121 degrees Celsius. During the night of a lunar cycle, when the Moon is plunged into a total darkness of sorts, temperatures drop to averages of minus 180 degrees Celsius. That's quite the whiplash for our little lander. What's more, days and nights on the moon aren't like the 12-hour days and nights on Earth. They last 14 days each. That's a fortnight of searing heat followed by a fortnight of total freezing darkness. SLIM wasn't designed to withstand a lunar night, so on January 31st, the mission team put it into hibernation for the next 14 days. It was never supposed to survive, but the optimistic crew thought they might as well try to contact it when the sun rose again, just in case. February 26th saw JAXA trying to reconnect with SLIM, with very few expectations. Just imagine the outright shock and joy when SLIM answered. Their miracle moon sniper survived its first lunar night and started sending pictures back to Earth. It gets even better. After 2 weeks of data and image gathering during its second lunar day, JAXA set SLIM into hibernation once more. Surviving one lunar night is no mean feat. Nobody expected SLIM to survive a second. But somehow it did. In late March 21st, JAXA confirmed that they'd gotten more communication from SLIM following its second lunar night. And then the pattern repeated in late April, when even more images were returned from the moon's surface after its third lunar night. SLIM has already defied the odds, holding on to functionality through extreme intensifications of heat and cold that would destroy most electronics not specifically designed for such conditions. Somehow, SLIM still managed to send back data and images following 3 lunar nights. These images of the surrounding moon rocks will help researchers better understand lunar geology. One image, SLIM took a close-up photograph of a moon rock named Toy Poodle. Taken with a special multi-band camera, despite the blur, geologists can use this to distinguish between the different minerals that comprise the rock, giving clues as to how the moon formed. Following the 4th lunar night, JAXA tried once again to re-establish communication with SLIM. However, none was able to confirm successful communications with the moon as of May 27th sniper. Despite heroic efforts to recover it, it most likely has fallen silent once and for all. Still, JAXA's first lunar touchdown is a breakthrough in interplanetary travel. It is a proof that such pinpoint landings indeed are possible, opening the doors to many other possibilities. The South Pole Aitken Basin, where the mantle of the moon is exposed to the surface. NASA also intends to go back to the moon in 2026 with the launch of their Artemis missions. Precise touchdowns like the one conducted by Moon Sniper may hold the key to our being able to get down to the water ice that lies in the permanently shadowed regions that up until now have been inaccessible. Moon Sniper is the symbol of all progress and innovation achieved since the last lunar era in the late 60s and early 70s. While both public and private interests have been growing to revisit the moon, missions like Moon Sniper show us how the second lunar era may entice us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time.